Hey guys. So something else I want to talk about, I'm going to start calling this like my podcast or something, is that we are all ambassadors of these kids, our school, this classroom, our special ed department, and this school district. And this is my second video doing this, trying to think of that we're sort of ambassadors for all kids with all students with special needs, because when you talk to anyone that asks you about your job, what do you do, and you say that you're a special ed teacher or whatever, and so these connections happen in other people's brains, and then how you talk about that sort of, if it's negative, might have a negative impact on how they see like other special ed kids, because a lot of people just don't know. Not a lot of people are exposed to working or interacting with students with special needs, and we have such a variety that we need to be mindful about the mental images that we're putting in people's brains about students with disabilities or people with disabilities. So I just want to talk about sort of just getting out sort of the bigger implications than just our school in general, and kids not being included, because it's a work of heart, and it's a hard work, and it's sort of it's a mindset change that in a sort of a community collaboration feel, and so anywho, just going along with sort of the negative talk and the stickiness of things that are happening, what you say and do has the possibility of either positively or negatively impacting all of these kind of situations here in these groups. And so I drew a little like kids, SLCA, Gen Ed, like these are rings of community, and they get bigger as we sort of go out North Clack, and then just sort of the community in general. And so some sort of negative implications and sort of some positive things if you're going to talk positively about kids or whatever. And so sort of these chats sort of happen, with other staff members, chat with your family, chat with anybody in the community. We just need to be mindful because we're always an ambassador. This is the job that we get paid for. And so whether you think of it in a positive or negative light, you being a part of North Clackamas in this school and in this classroom, anybody that you have contact with, a perception comes back to all of this. And so I want to start off with the positives, because they can go either, they create such a great change, and sort of I want to get some motivation going on here. Some great implications would be that the community has a positive perception about our class, school, our district, our department, our kids, or kids with special needs in general. I think our work on equity in this district is sort of getting at that. And so another positive implication going along with sort of the big brain and my hope and idea that I have is that staff would want to include our kids, and that we wouldn't be a distractor for that. We would have trust, because that's a huge thing, that you can't have acceptance and stuff with that if you can't trust other people to take care of you, or that you're going to take care of their kid. Some of that's implied, but some of it gets broken, and if we don't work to mend that or to preemptively make sure that it doesn't get broken, that's just where breakdowns happen. And since we're all human, it's going to happen. I'm going to say something. You all know that when crazy stuff happens, I get very business and robotic-like, and I told you that at the beginning of the year. I'm just going to tell you what happens, and it's not personal. And then if you let me know I was too harsh or whatever, I just need things to be contained so that they don't get out of control. Because then we all have to work to make it much better. And so I just like to preemptively not have to do that. So trust, and then that kids would feel accepted, cared for, and loved by all staff members at our school. This could be what could happen if we, and I've been trying very hard, as I told you before, to get our kids out there and to talk about all the great things that we're doing. At a last staff meeting, people were positively impacted, seriously, about what I told them about our friend AJ, and just how amazing her interaction with that other student was, and thinking about, you know, unicorns, and I would think about donuts, like, you know, just to have that be a part of our culture here. I think we could do amazing things if we intentionally focus on all the positive things, because our kids can't grow in negativity. It's just not going to happen. And that's why I make it very purposeful of talking about like things that make me happy, things that make them happy here, because that's where love grows. That's where, you know, you can't build a relationship without it being positive and intentional. And then learning doesn't grow unless you have a positive, trusting relationship. And so, and this goes to positive and negative. Just like germs, everything spreads if you intended to do, or even if you didn't. And so if it's negative, it's going to spread. It's going to go to all these things over here, and it gets out of your control because it just happens. And so you just have to be mindful to be preemptive about it. You know, if you need to vent, do it somewhere not here. You know, do it with a person who's not going to then hopefully spread it to other people that would impact things here or in their community, that you would trust that it would be whatever. Which brings me to confidentiality, before I get on to the negative stuff, is that if a person does not need to know, like nobody outside of the school needs to know any personal details about any of our kids, or a lot of people here do not need to know any specific things unless sort of I tell them so. If they're not need to know, then they don't need to know. So like our gen ed teachers who are working with some of our friends, they might need to know accommodations and maybe their eligibility categorization, strategy, stuff like that. That is totally applicable. They need to know that so that they can work successfully with that child. But other people do not need to know any pertinent information unless maybe they're at recess and they need to know a behavior support plan. But anybody else should not be having that conversation with us. And you can just tell them, talk to Ms. Sparky about that. So some of the negative implications that I forecast happening if we are not mindful about the conversations that we have is that students don't get included either in gen ed, assemblies, field trips, just because of what happens. We're human and we want to stay away from negative stuff. And so we just have to be mindful that we keep it all positive. That negative perceptions are spread beyond the walls of the school. I wrote that that's a nightmare of mine, that somebody would think poorly about our classroom, or me, because I'm in charge here, and that would just feel very terrible to me because I try very hard, obviously, as you can tell. I'm staying here till 7 o'clock at night to make sure that we can impact all of our children positively. That our community members would perceive our kids, staff, school, district negatively, and they don't want kids to come here. Like, it would be terrible if they're like, I don't want my kid to come to Ardenwald. Maybe somewhere else. Like, that would feel very bad to me just because a mistake was happened that somebody wasn't being intentionally mindful. And then increased negative staff interactions with kids or other staff. Like, it just doesn't need to happen. And inequity, because it's just caused by negative perception that we would just get left out of things because people don't want to deal with the negative stuff. And so my point is that we're ambassadors, and so we need to be mindful of what you say, how you say it, who you say it to, and where you say it. So this is what I choose to live by. And if you watched my other video, that I am trying to be positively intentional, respectful, and kind here so that I can positively impact our culture, so that our students then don't get left out of things that they didn't deserve to just because the adults weren't intentional about things. And so let me know what you think. I hope that you can think about how you see yourself as an ambassador here for all of our areas that we encompass, and that my next sort of video thing is going to be about the sort of improvement science PDSA was a plan, do, study, act, and I'm personally trying to do that on a personal level, and it's just a systematic way to like achieve some progress and goal areas and to make changes, little tweaks to make sure that you're reaching your goal. And so like I wrote on our thing that I want all kids to be independent in the things that they can, and that kids would be able to advocate for themselves. And so I'll sort of be rolling that out since we just have lives. Well, you do. I don't because I'm at school. But anywho, we will chat some more. I hope you can presume positive intent on me, that I'm hopefully portraying this in a way that you can think about positively, and that we can have a conversation. I want to build our capacity to have difficult conversations so that later they aren't difficult. Because I want us to have open, honest conversations about the things that are sticky and that we just need to deal with, because we're human and we put things out there. And so anyhow, I'm putting this out here. I'm being vulnerable. I'm hoping that you can accept what I'm saying, and that we can grow and learn together. Again, I appreciate all your work so much, and I will see you later.